ladies and gentlemen. So, due to the positive reception of our first episode, and me having a word with our producer, I like money. This series has been greenlit to continue. That being said, let's dive right into this episode. As opposed to the last episode where I pitched 3 theories and broke them down one by one, today we're only going to be focusing on one semi-popular theory from the community. One theory that could change the entire way people look at this character. One theory about the main antagonist of volumes 1 through 3. Cinder Fall. It's no secret that despite all of the evil Cinder has shown throughout the series, she firmly remains a fan favorite, and is the focus of much fan art, fan fiction, and several ships. Not gonna happen. That is somewhat understandable, as most fandoms do have a large group of villain worshippers within their ranks, but what if I were to tell you that not only is Cinder an interesting villain, but that she may very well be the best character in RWBY, or at least the best written. Blasphemer! Now, hear me out. Keep an open mind and reserve your judgment until the end of the video. To really get to the gist of this theory, I need to pose this question. What do we know about Cinder? We know that she's been serving Salem's cause for quite some time, having recruited Emerald and Mercury long before the events of Volume 1. But why does she follow Salem? Salem's plans are seemingly to wipe out humanity, or at least reign over them, and bring the Grimm into a position of dominance. As a human, why would Cinder support that? The rest of Cinder's faction has a pretty clear motive for aligning themselves with Salem. As you know, I merely wanted to be on the winning side. Neo was there because I was. Emerald joined at the promise of being fed. And Mercury feeds off chaos and anarchy. But we have no idea why Cinder is there. Or do we? The answer may lie in Cinder's confirmed inspiration, Cinderella. What is Cinderella's story? Most of us have it drilled into our brains by this point. But for comparison's sake, allow me to go over the arguably most famous version, that of the Perrault telling. It's the tale of a girl who has nothing to her name, and who is abused by her cruel stepfamily. After being helped by her fairy, she attends a royal ball and catches the eye of the prince, who later marries her, and they all live happily ever after. What if Cinder has a similar backstory to her namesake? What if she grew up with nothing in an abusive family? Or maybe she was a social outcast bullied by her peers. Let's say that Salem is the fairy godmother who came along one day and offered to help Cinder out of her current situation, similarly to how Cinder propositioned M. What exactly did she promise her in exchange for her loyalty, though? What would a hated peasant girl want? Simple. Power. Cinder's monologue in the opening of the flashback episode, beginning of the end, helps to support this. I want to be strong. I want to be feared. I want to be powerful. Cinder joined Salem because she promised her control over her own life. Because she promised her that she would become a something after she'd been made to think that she was a nothing. I know what you're thinking. Okay, Roman, that's sad and all, but what about all the atrocities she's committed? She killed Pyrrha, she killed Penny, she is directly responsible for the fall of Beacon and everything that's come with it. Yes, I'm not going to argue that. But what beloved character has done horrific things such as these? What other character has killed other fan-favorite characters and overseen mass destruction and genocide? No, I'm not talking about someone from RWBY. I'm talking about one of the most infamous fictional villains of all time. None other than Anakin Skywalker / Darth Vader. Think about it. In the prequels, why did Anakin assist in Mace Windu's murder? Why did he lead the march on the Jedi Temple and slaughter innocent children? Why did he massacre an entire room of unarmed diplomats? Because a great deceiver seduced him with the desire for power. Anakin spent his entire childhood as a slave, no power whatsoever. Once he was free and became a Jedi Padawan, his mother was snatched from him by the Tusken Raiders. His anger grew believing that if only he had had power at that time, he could have saved her. Then, when he sensed that his true love would be taken by death as well, he was told that the only way to save her was through power. When you're denied something your entire life like Anakin and Cinder were, why wouldn't you pursue it with every fiber of your being? Victor Hugo once said, "Slaves would be tyrants, were the choice theirs." Of course, Anakin paid a heavy price for his mad lust for power, and so did Cinder. And at the end of the day, they were both at the end of someone else's leash. So if this is indeed true, it's reasonable to say that Cinder is a sympathetic character. One I'm sure that many of us can relate to. But this brings up another question. If Cinder isn't a bad person at heart, is she redeemable? Personally, I think the answer is yes. But how could a redemption arc happen? Going back to Vader, he came back to the light after seeing the suffering of his son. Cinder doesn't have any children or family that we know of at this time who are alive and still in her life, so that wouldn't work. I have a different idea though. There is one character who I think could bring Cinder back from this dark path she's chosen. And it's Little Red. Red is perhaps the most compassionate character in the cast, and if anyone could breach Cinder's rough exterior, it'd be her. I mean, the girl's got spirit. What if, say, RWBY is captured by Salem at the climax of one of the future volumes? Maybe RWBY and Cinder could have a conversation or two while the former is in captivity. Cinder could eventually explain why she follows Salem, and Red could say something like, "None of that power matters if you're not using it for good." This could plant the seed within Cinder's heart, and in the end, she could sacrifice herself to defeat Salem, like how Vader gave his life to kill the Emperor. I do believe, again like Vader, Cinder would have to die, for the purposes of the story, as otherwise she'd face trial and punishment for her actions, and, well, that's not a very happy ending, let's be honest. But instead of dying as a villain, she would have lived long enough to see herself become the hero. And finally, she would truly be remembered by our heroes as the most powerful warrior in Remnant. She would have her happily ever after. So, those are my thoughts. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know. If you want to see more Road to Volume 5, please subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, and please follow if you're watching on VidMe. Also, if you'd like to be a pal and help out the channel, feel free to contribute to our Patreon account. Any amount would help immensely and guarantee that we can keep making these. Lastly, I'd like to recommend a severely underrated channel called The Geek Theorist. His content mostly focuses on RWBY and Pokemon. He does theory videos, reviews, and all kinds of other stuff. If you like our stuff, you'll probably love his. I'm mentioning him here because he also did a video advocating for Cinder, but in a much different way. We'd love to work with him at some point in the future, and we deeply encourage you to subscribe to him. Links for all of these are in the description. As always, thank you guys for watching. And until next time, this is Roman Torchwick on behalf of Jamie, saying, Hasta luego.